Well, hello, that's me again. It's March 8th, and for those who celebrate, it's International Women's Day, and my congratulations to all women who are not completely, off their rails and are feminists of the third wave, but those who really appreciate femininity. And it was originally Marxist type celebration started by Rosa Luxemburg and Clara Zetkin, but truth is, in Russia, it's long ago stopped being any kind of communist or any kind of Marxist flavor. It's just men, singing their women, giving them flowers, all kinds of gifts and things of this nature. It's just basically adoring and praising the femininity, and that's what this holiday in Russia is, and I think so it's a very good holiday. So any woman who really appreciates her femininity and is not the third wave feminist or Karen, congratulations, wonderful holiday. We really need you guys. So as for before I start, as always, now I will try to do it from the get-go. Guys, do not forget to subscribe, and those who can afford to support me on Patreon. So I'm just started saying this up front. Now let's get to our goats, so to speak, and let's start talking about what is going on. Well, in terms of the CTRAP, military CTRAP, first, there is obviously alternative reality of the Western media, which basically do not understand what they're talking about. They just push the agenda, and obviously trying to cover a serious butthurt on the part of many Western elites who have been shown how you conduct the humanitarian operation by demolishing military machine and then trying to handle the civilians in the most soft and most caring manner. So, but in terms of Mariupol, which is the key port and key industrial center on the Azov Sea, in the Sea of Azov, LDNR and Russian forces are now inside Mariupol. They are fighting their way what is now the Victory Avenue, which is close to the center of Mariupol. And of course, Mariupol is being wholesale held hostage by the Nazi forces. But this is going fairly well. And people have to be constantly reminded that Ukraine is just one of the links in the long chain of the events which United States unleashed in its total war on Russia. And they have to understand that whatever Russians do in Ukraine, apart from obvious issue of demolishing of the Kiev regime military machine, which has been pretty much demolished by now, all the resistance is all concentrated in the cities, and yeah, the mopping up goes on as I talk to you now. But you have to understand that modern Ukraine is no more. And the political regime, which is represented by the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, a clown by occupation no less, and that whatever Zelensky say, he doesn't say it on his behalf or on behalf of whatever the government of Ukraine is, and wherever it is. It is all conveying the position of the United States. United States got used to fight proxies because it cannot fight the peer, because it will be annihilated and its armed forces destroyed. But hey, here's Zelensky, here's his regime. And there was a very remarkable change of the tone on Zelensky's part today. Prior to this, he was sending, not he really, he isn't what people say now, I tend to believe them. He is residing now in the US Embassy in Poland, but point is that those negotiating people who have been sent to talk to Russians in Belarus about the changes and humanitarian corridors and whatever Russian demands are, they've been obviously there obfuscating the issue and basically, pulling the finger and trying to kill as much time as they could, because whenever there are negotiations about humanitarian corridors, you have what is called the regime of silence, and Russians stop their offensive. Well, Prior to this, Zelensky was very, very radical in his denial of any kind of ultimatums and Russian demands. Well, guess what? Today the tone changed dramatically, actually. Zelensky suddenly says that, well, yeah, I'm still against all those ultimatums, but I'm ready to talk. I want to negotiate, and I want to negotiate from the point of view of recognizing no less LDNR, Donbas republics, recognizing Crimea belonging to Russia, and get that he is obviously, as he said, he very much cooled down towards NATO membership. Well, it's one of the major position and demands of its Russian ultimatum. Ukraine will exist only as a neutral state, only as the neutral nation, or it will not exist at all as a country. Well, read Zelensky's lips, so to speak. This is not him talking. He is nobody. He is a puppet. It is the United States talking. And there is a reason why the United States wants to talk it this way, and there is a definite change of the position, so to speak. The reason being, as you already know, the Los Angeles already have the premium gas, which is $7.55 a gallon, and it's just the warm-up. Elsewhere, the gasoline prices grow. Obviously, this will be, make no mistake, this will be blamed on Russia, but of course the situation with Ukraine and de facto incredibly accelerating. It's just mind-boggling. I never saw anything like this. The destruction of the US dollar-based economic system is astounding. I have to admit, even the collapse of the Soviet Union was somewhat different, and I lived through it. I lived through the war in the Soviet Union, and so it was stunning. But what we're observing right now is a complete accelerating implosion of the dollar system, and we probably have to consider the fact that this is due partially for the United States not being really governable. Obviously, as I am on record, many cliques and many lobby groups, I mean, vying for influence and control of the United States, but also the fact that the United States economically is basically ruined. It's ruined not in the sense that there is no Wall Street or there are no money. The United States still can print money. But the main issue is, of course, that the United States decided to block imports of Russian oil to the United States, and it's not a big amount, and it really doesn't affect Russia that much, but it's definitely projects the sense of urgency and sense of chaos on commodity markets. And commodity markets are the most important markets, not financial markets, make no mistake. Commodities, that's what really matters. Now, the United States wants, obviously, to beat Europeans into utter submission and for them to block the deliveries of Russian hydrocarbons. And Mr. Novak, the Minister of the Energy of Russia, said that, you know, it's fairly nonchalantly, actually, that, well, if Europe wants, $300 per barrel of oil, it will get it. I mean, come on. Russians also say that, yeah, we can shut down, Nord Stream 1 if they really insist. And Europe is a little bit in panic, let me put it this way. Well, United States too, actually. Because evidently they are, based on their false narrative, of which I'm writing for years, about the actual importance and the size of Russian economy, their knee-jerk reaction, and actually the very emotional one, and the Russophobia runs really high in Europe especially. There are some in the United States, but Europe is just absolutely Russophobic. They begin to understand that, if they really want that, Russia will close those deliveries. And guess what's going to happen? Europe will descend into complete social and political chaos immediately, because it will be based on the economy which is not sustainable. It already is not sustainable as it is, especially for the Germany. Now, what the United States want for itself, well, that's another interesting issues. I don't think so United States still completely grasp the gravity of situation, because as I already stated, last video and before, it was well known that India, and this is giant, economic and demographic giant in the Eurasian subcontinent, they already want Russia and India to trade in rubles and rupees. Now Turkey wants to use lira and rubles in their trade with Russia. Then we have China with its stance, and if you look around, my gosh, this is the end of the US dollar. And yeah, oil, for example, and gas, they are denominated in dollar, but who said that you cannot trade them in rubles or lira or rupee or yuan? I mean, it's complete baloney. And obviously, when the operation in Ukraine shows what it shows now, there is a hysteria in US media who only good at PR and propaganda, and their task now is, by means of smearing Russians with all kinds of things, from war crimes to saying that, all Russians cannot fight, the, image of Russian military is shattered and things of this nature. It's obviously to cover up for, as already have been shown on the example of Zelensky, that United States understands it's losing. And, well, it's not really that it is losing. It already lost on many fronts, and once the full understanding of the diminishing, if not evaporating role of the US dollar descends on many people, which is already in progress, there you go. That will be the end of Pax Americana, which is already in its death throes, and we are living already in, not de facto, we're already in the de jure, if you wish, of the multipolar world. And nothing the United States can do about it. It can obviously continue to produce propaganda, some of it reasonable, other of it is just totally, I mean, off the wall and off the scale of in its sheer idiocy in non-professionalism, but it is what it is, obviously. People don't like to lose. But it is what it is right now, and after the taking of Mariupol, I think Nikolaev is next, because Russia already surrounded it. And then we will have, again, the stretching of the Russian incursion, so to speak, or offensive towards Odessa. And the future Ukraine will be effectively denied access to the Black Sea, and it already is denied access to the Azov Sea. And then, as I already stated, the process of denazification will start in earnest. It's already in progress. And if you noticed, of course, granted you didn't read CNN or listen to them, or MSNBC or what have you, that Russians, in those towns and cities which they take, they usually leave administrations as it is, including those people who have been pretty much dedicated followers of Zelensky regime, or even, some neo-Nazi inclinations. This is the matter of in Kherson or in other towns, and that will be the matter of the Izium, which was taken, and it's strategically important city, and it was taken yesterday. So it's just leave the structure, leave the government in place. In other matter, allow people, as it is now, there are 24 Russian channels being broadcasted in the liberated areas. Let them have their own opinion and mind, and let those Ukrainians, there are many of them, I don't know how are they majority, but I think so, it's a significant minority of those people who have been beaten into utter submission by fear. And once they will understand that the Nazi battalions and brigades and VSU is not coming back, including SBU, the security service, and they will not be persecuted, they will not disappear without a trace, and they will not be killed or shot in some nearest forest, then you will see the, which already happens to a degree, when you will see the kind of the issue, momentous, I would say, recognition of what prior Ukraine was. And people get rid of those illusions about the greatness of Ukrainian nation, and which is literally was fighting 8 years with the Russian army. Well, Russian army appeared, and for the 13 days, now the VSU is non-existent. Now it really wanted to fight. It finally got to fight Russian military. And again, even the fully surrounded huge cauldron in the West, Russians are still kind of contemplating what to do with those. We have around, what, 50,000 troops there, I think, and Russia can turn this into the parking lot really fast. But then again, you will have really many deaths of people who might not necessarily, may not necessarily wanted to fight Russia, and there are families. So Russia will continue to do it in the most humane manner, unless, of course, there is no other option, and then the full firepower will be brought to bear. And then, yeah, we will have the catastrophic losses on the Ukrainian side. But for now, Russia has been able to avoid it. And so we'll see how it goes with the Mariupol, and we'll see how it goes with Nikolaev. But basically, the operation develops in a pretty steady and normal manner. And judging by the statements of Zelensky, which is statements by the United States, they really desperately need to negotiate, because if there is no negotiation, they do not provide a positive response to Russia's demands on Russia's security and neutral status of Ukraine. As I already stated, Ukraine will be completely broken up, and then the United States will have nothing but to admit that, yeah, we're screwed, and as I already stated, there is a lot of butt hurt, because the comparisons are not only warranted but inevitable between the way America fights its war and the way Russia prosecutes this operation. The contrast is startling. And granted that Russia has as much, if not more, firepower than the United States, but so far it was generally surgical, all things considered. Minimal losses of the civilians. Some, even American sources, I believe it was New York Times, was stating that there was so far about between 300 and 500 civilians killed. You can bet your butt, honestly, on the fact that most of those civilians will be killed by Ukrainian nationalist battalions, and that's what they do. They do this in Mariupol, they do this in Kharkov, and again, somebody suggested and somebody told them how to plan this operation by placing themselves and literally digging themselves in around civilian infrastructure. What a great quote-unquote military thought. It comes down to such a degree that Ramzan's Kadyrov people, Chechen special forces battalions, who also are very active, especially in pursuing the war criminals, they already are frustrated. They say, where are those guys, from those nationalist Nazi battalions who promised to really dig us down, to bury us, and the minute we appear, they run. Well, as I already stated, they're really good hiding behind the civilians. They're not really good fighting real first-rate military. And that's what we observe now. So, but in general, what is going to happen? At this stage, we're in such a volatile situation, we're in such a volatile state, that economically it's very difficult to predict who really will survive, honestly, So, and Europeans will have to face to the fact that they have been conned, and while the United States may, stop the importing of Russian oil, it doesn't change very much the overall picture of the economic decline. And as already stated, and not only me, listen to and read Michael Hudson, read other analysts, we're observing right now an accelerated destruction of the US dollar system. And that is a catastrophe for basically whole system of American, what usually called American security and American dominance. Much of this dominance obviously exaggerated and being a propaganda, but that's what it is. This is how the end of the world as we knew it comes just enjoy as much as you can. And of course, we are looking at the very serious economic turmoil in the Western world. And who knows, that might push many countries to the brink. And some people say we might even witness the change of the political regimes in Europe somewhere. I don't know. Well, Macron, obviously, Mr. Macron knows that something is going on. He's trying to present himself as this, diplomatic guy. But reality is, Russia already practically completely reoriented itself to the east, towards the basically what comes down to, we already know, Russian-Chinese alliance and Russian-Indian relations, Russian-Iranian relations, and Russian-Turkish relations. And once you can take a look at it, yes, what you see to the left of the main larger Eurasian landmass, you see this small peninsula called Europe, which will have to decide on its own how it's going to live or how it's going to die. Because basically, Europe and the United States committed what I never thought they will commit. They committed an economic and political suicide. How it will develop further down the road, we'll talk about this. The situation is extremely fluid, and a lot will be dependent on, I am sure there is some degree of this secret diplomacy between United States and Russia, and Russia still does this because they understand the only thing United States can do is to present itself as hegemon, and it's afraid more than death to be shown weak and agreeing to something and bargaining on something. This is how the American political system is done and is constructed. That's the clockwork of the American political system, which is primarily PR and for the show. And obviously showing yourself impotent is a horrendous humiliation. But then again, we all remember Afghanistan. We all remember now all kinds of the claims about the great American fighting forces and, great economy. Reality is what it is today. You can sell oil or any other hydrocarbons or whatever you want for rubles, for rupees, for what have you. And even the fact that the United States doesn't want to allow operations with gold, it's the act of desperation, because unlike Western gold, which is allegedly being stored within the United States, nobody knows if it's there anymore. Germans allowed just to take a look at it. We don't know if the gold is there, but all gold, Russian gold, is stored in Russia. And that's another strategic thing. And of course, you cannot attack Russia without being annihilated yourself. That's the basic law of the geopolitics. It's the correlation of the forces. Russia simply has better forces. And that's what drives this whole situation. But again, because it is so fluid and because market changes in such a violent way and prices are going bananas and commodities are now bananas, everything is bananas. So we need to really keep an eye on it and analyze it as it unfolds. So in this case, this is what I wanted to talk to you about today. And I will repeat again, please, those who can support me on Patreon, and obviously subscribe. And yet again, to wonderful women all over the world, best wishes to you gals. And, I wish you the health and happiness and, just be happy. So that's it for today, guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.